Hi, this is a gamer's wife, here to talk about axolotl illnesses and health issues. As exotic pets, axolotls are kind of hard to understand, especially for new owners, so you can't always tell if something's wrong. Like, are they supposed to be this active? Or maybe they're not active enough? Or their coloration looks really bright today, or kind of faded. What's normal? What's not? For me, if my axolotl isn't eating, that's usually one of my first signs that something is wrong. In general, make sure that you have clean water, cool temperatures, a variety of good food, low water flow, and make sure none of the other tank mates are picking on them. It seems like one of the most common diseases is fungus in the gills. Good news is it's really easy to tell if they have fungus in their gills. Sometimes axolotls will be irritated and they'll shake their head and it'll actually slough off. Unfortunately, a lot of times their gill filaments will also fall off. The causes of fungus can come from stress, lowered immunity, or it can be a symptom of some other disease. Luckily, the treatment is pretty easy. Salt baths. To create the solution, use 2 to 3 teaspoons of salt per quart of water. Your axolotl won't be living in the salt solution. It's actually a 10-minute bath, 1 to 2 times a day. For me, I had a lot of success when I did 3 days of 2 salt baths per day, and then followed up with 4 days of 1 salt bath per day. So 7 days of salt baths in all. Signs of recovery include, obviously, no more fungus on the gills, the axolotl's appetite comes back, and eventually the gills will get nice and poofy again. I like to put my axolotl in a shoebox-sized quarantine tub and then switch them over to the salt bath every day as needed. After the salt bath periods are over, then I leave them in quarantine for 1 more week just to make sure nothing is wrong. Section number 2, external injuries, wounds, or skin discolorations. Let's start off with physical injuries. The symptoms are pretty obvious. You'll see a scrape in their tail, or maybe they're missing a limb due to cannibalism from a fellow tank mate or bullying. Luckily, axolotls can regenerate just about anything, so the treatment is really easy. Just cold, clean water, lots of food, and in about a month, it'll probably heal up. You can leave them in the main tank, or if other axolotls are bothering her, you can put her in a quarantine tub for the duration. Another type of physical damage can be chemical burns on the skin, or even handling your axolotl too much. Basically, symptoms you'll see include skin flakes in the water, red irritated skin, which is going to be easier to see on a lighter skinned axolotl. The gills may disintegrate, and they may stop eating or hide all day. Chemical burns can come from too much ammonia in the water. Maybe there's bleach from something you cleaned and didn't get rinsed thoroughly, or even too much salt or tea baths on their skin. Again, due to their regenerative properties, the treatment is simple. Clean, cold water and quarantine if needed. When it comes to discoloration on the skin, it's sometimes hard to tell what it is. I had a leucistic axolotl with white spots and milkiness under her skin that I could have sworn was fungus. And it wasn't. I freaked out for no reason. I've also seen pictures of melanoid axolotls that have gray or white patchy areas on their skin, and it's completely normal as well. However, sometimes gray or white patches can actually be some kind of infection, like columnaris or saprolegnia. So do your research. Some people have recommended salt baths or a broad-spectrum antibiotic like Furan 2. Check out the description for links to medications that are purportedly safe for axolotls. If you see red patches on their limbs or body parts, it may be a septic infection, so you might have to treat it with antibiotics or play it safe and go see a vet. Section 3, parasites. I don't have much experience, so you might want to see a vet if you suspect something. Online, people have recommended treating internal worms like roundworms with levamisole or Panicure. And external worms, people mentioned using salt baths or even medications that are sold to treat koi. Make sure to sterilize your tank thoroughly afterwards. And again, check out that list of safe medications in the description. Okay, the longest section I have is Part 4, Intestinal or Other Internal Organ Issues. Common symptoms you may see include floating, vomiting, or a swollen abdomen. For floating, that often means that the tail usually floats higher than the rest of the body, and it can be caused by, well, just normal axolotl silliness. Some of them like to gulp air, especially juveniles who are more active and like to play and swim at the top. It can mean there's a pending defecation about to occur, or it could be something more serious like gas buildup from a bacterial infection in the gut. For treatment, wait and see if the floating continues for hours, where clearly the axolotl can't release it themselves just from burping. What you can do is put them in a shallow tub of cool water to make them more comfortable, where the water just kind of barely covers their back, because it can be stressful for the axolotl if they can't touch the ground. That will give them time to pass the gas on their own. However, if it doesn't go away, see the following sections on constipation and possible other issues. In the case of vomiting, again, it could be totally normal, where they just simply ate too much and they're regurgitating the excess. It could be that they ate a rotten worm. Or it could be something more serious where they're sick or constipated. So keep on listening. If your axolotl has a swollen abdomen as their symptom, the causes may include impaction, being gravid, bloating, and constipation. Impaction simply means swallowing something that they can't pass. That could be gravel, it could be rocks, it could be a tank mate like a fish or a snail they shouldn't have eaten. If it's gravel or rocks, the treatment usually involves moving them to a tank with sand or that's bare bottom, and they should pass it. However, if the problem doesn't go away, you can take them to a vet to x-ray to see what the problem is and potentially surgically remove it. If your female axolotl is gravid, that would cause their abdomen to look rather large, so they will either lay the eggs or the eggs will be reabsorbed in their body. If the eggs are not reabsorbed properly for some reason, it could be a bacterial infection, so keep on listening. Bloating. Bloating is when the abdomen is swelling from fluid and not from gas. So in this case, oftentimes they are not floating. It may be caused by a number of things, like kidney, liver, or other organ failure, or it could be a bacterial infection. It's pretty serious from what I understand. For treatment, some people recommend salt baths to help suck out the fluid. However, it may be best to contact a vet to drain the fluid and diagnose the cause of the issue. And final cause for a swollen abdomen is constipation. I actually see this a lot on the internet. It could be, again, from having eaten too much, or maybe they ate a rotten worm. Symptoms that you'll see include no appetite, obviously no waste being produced. For my axolotl, he vomited out pieces of the red wiggler he had eaten, started floating, and then he had a swollen kind of reddish cloaca from all the straining. As for treatment, the number one recommendation I see on the internet is fridging, which I'll describe later on, but it basically involves putting your axolotl in the refrigerator. Some people think that fridging helps the axolotls to void themselves as they prepare to kind of not hibernate, but slow down their metabolism. However, other people think that slowing down the metabolism will do the exact opposite and delay any defecation. Other treatment suggestions include feeding some kind of oily or fattier food, not their normal pure protein like live or frozen worms, but something like a sinking pellet that has non-digestible ingredients in them to help pass the stools. Finally, another treatment is used by university researchers who work a lot with axolotls, and that includes using a laxative. You're looking for the key medical ingredient of senescide. I'll put a link in the description below. You may consider contacting a vet after 48 hours. Unfortunately, my axolotl died after 4 days of constipation, and fridging didn't do a thing for him. In this final section, it's going to be a glossary of popular treatment methods for axolotls. First thing is the quarantine tub. I briefly mentioned this before, but You want to get a shoebox-sized plastic tub, fill it with cool dechlorinated water, feed them well, and do 100% water changes every day. For me, my axolotls did really well in quarantine when I put their tub on my basement floor, which kept them really cool and happy. Food strikes. What to do when your axolotl isn't eating. I've had a lot of luck using live blackworms. They just can't seem to resist those wiggling balls of yumminess. Once they start eating the live blackworms, then you can move them up to red wigglers or cut up earthworms, and even start adding pellets. However, if the situation is dire, there are methods of force feeding your axolotl. You'll need a spatula, a syringe, and a slurry of dissolved pellets. It'll probably take 2 people to do as well. What I did was hold my axolotl over a quarantine tub using both hands. I found it more grippy and stable to use my hands rather than a towel because axolotls are so slimy and squirmy. Then my husband took the spatula, inserted it into the axolotl's mouth, and then rotated it 90 degrees to force the mouth open. Then you quickly squirt in the syringe of pellet slurry. For our axolotl, I felt like she spit it all up, but some of it must have gone in. The next day, she actually shed a lot of slimy bits that had rubbed off her skin from me holding her during the feeding. However, the force feeding worked. My axolotl started eating live blackworms on her own soon afterwards. Supposedly, it's a thing that axolotls can forget how to eat. Not sure why. Fridging! Again, very common treatment that people on the internet seem to prescribe for all ailments of any kind. However, other people recommend only using it during dire emergencies, since a slowed metabolism may mean that healing will also occur more slowly. What you want to do is have a refrigerator at 40 to 46 degrees Fahrenheit, or 5 to 8 degrees Celsius. Get your handy dandy shoebox plastic container with a lid and fill it with dechlorinated water, just enough to cover the axolotl's back if they're floating. And then some people cover the box with a towel to limit their exposure to light. As always, you'll need to change 100% of the water every day, so keep another bottle or even tub of water in the fridge so it's always at the same temperature when you do your water change. Salt baths. I mentioned them before, that they're primarily used as a treatment for fungus and sometimes for fluid swelling or parasites. Just a reminder, rule of thumb is 2 to 3 teaspoons of dissolved salt per quart of water. And then you're going to soak your axolotl in the salt bath for only 10 minutes, 1 to 2 times a day. Your axolotl is not going to like the salt bath. He's probably going to squirm around a lot, but I've found that salt dips for up to 7 days does not seem to do long-term damage. And finally, tea baths. I personally have not had a lot of success with this method. It seems to be primarily used for minor skin issues, the tea being a source of tannins. And so what people do is they'll steep 1 tea bag of unflavored black tea in a cup of boiling water, steep for about 10 to 15 minutes. And they'll dilute it in a total of 10 quarts of water. One person says that they use that 10 quarts of water as the quarantine take, and they leave their axolotl in there for 1 week, replenishing the tea concentrations if you need to do water changes in between. Other people say that you should just dip them in the tea, kind of like the salt dips, with 10 minutes a day, 1 to 2 times a day. Just be aware if the tea concentration is too strong or for too long of a time, it will burn their skin. Hopefully you found this video useful. Again, I didn't cover everything that can go wrong with an axolotl, but these are some of the most common issues that you may see with your pet. Best of luck with your axolotl, and don't forget to find a vet that's familiar with amphibians and reptiles on your speed dial. You never know when you might need their help. On your way out, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and click the notification bell so you won't miss my next video. See you next time!